Part 1. The Foundation of Strength. There's a story I once heard about two men who built their homes side by side. The first man rushed. He found a patch of soft ground, hammered in some wooden stakes, and threw his house together quickly. The walls looked fine. The roof stood firm. He even painted the front door bright red. From the outside, anyone walking by would have said, "That man has it all figured out." The second man worked slowly. Instead of starting with walls, he dug into the earth. His neighbors laughed. "What are you doing wasting your time in the dirt?" But he kept digging, laying stones, pouring his sweat into the unseen ground. By the time his foundation was finished, the other man's house was already decorated for the holidays. Then came the storm. Winds screamed. Rain pounded the earth. The river swelled and broke its banks. By morning, the first house was gone. Only splinters remained. But the second house? It stood tall, solid, and unshaken. Why? Because the foundation held. That story isn't just about houses. It's about life. And it's about you. You see, every challenge you face, every setback, every disappointment, every hardship, is like a storm. And whether you collapse or stand tall has little to do with luck, talent, or even resources. It has everything to do with what lies underneath your mind. The hidden foundation. Napoleon Hill, in his timeless teachings, often reminded readers that success is built first in the invisible world, your thoughts, before it shows up in the visible world, your results. Think about it. Two people can face the exact same problem. One gives up in despair. The other pushes forward, stronger than ever. The difference is not in the problem. It's in the foundation of the mind facing it. A weak mind makes excuses. A strong mind looks for answers. A weak mind sees walls. A strong mind sees doors. That's why building your mental foundation is the first step to building any kind of life worth living. Without it, the storms of life will knock you flat. With it, you can stand firm no matter what comes. Roots that hold you steady. Picture a tree. On the surface, you see branches, leaves, and fruit. But what keeps that tree standing through heavy winds? Not the branches. Not the leaves. It's the roots you cannot see. Your mind is your root system. If your roots are shallow, if your thoughts are weak, every hardship shakes you. But if your roots run deep, if your mind is steady, courageous, and disciplined, you cannot be moved. Great leaders, warriors, entrepreneurs, they were not born with strong minds. They built them. They chose courage when fear whispered. They chose patience when anger flared. They chose resilience when failure knocked them down. Every choice was like another root digging deeper into the soil of strength. The training of the mind. But here's the catch. You cannot build a strong mind overnight. Just as you cannot walk into a gym once and expect to have muscles of steel, you cannot decide one morning to be strong and expect your mind to stay steady forever. Strength is built through discipline. Every time you rise after falling, you grow tougher. Every time you choose effort over laziness, you sharpen your mind. Every time you hold on to hope instead of despair, you add another layer of steel within. Napoleon Hill called this the power of habit. You don't get strong in the big moments. You get strong in the small choices you make every day. Those choices are seeds. Like a farmer planting in spring, you won't see results the next morning. But if you water them with patience and persistence, one day you will look around and see the harvest. A mind unshakable, a life that stands firm. The illusion of strength. Let me tell you another short story. There was once a man who inherited great wealth. He thought his riches made him strong. Another man had no wealth but carried a steady, disciplined mind. When hardship came, the rich man panicked. He had no inner strength to guide him. Fear made him reckless, and soon his fortune was gone. But the man with the strong mind? He started with nothing. He worked patiently, thought clearly, stayed courageous when others gave up. Over time, he built a fortune, lost it, and built again. Nothing could break him, because true strength was inside. The lesson is simple. Riches, muscles, power, or status mean little if the foundation of the mind is weak. But with a strong mind, you can lose everything and still rise again. Building your fortress. So how do you begin building this fortress of inner strength? Start small. When anger rises, choose patience. When fear creeps in, choose courage. When laziness whispers, choose action. Each choice may feel small in the moment, but they are bricks in the foundation of your strength. Over time, those bricks become walls. Those walls become a fortress. And that fortress becomes unshakable. The first step, remember this truth: your mind is the root, and your life is the tree. If the root is weak, the tree cannot grow tall. But if the root is deep and strong, no storm can bring it down. Napoleon Hill once said, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But here's the part most people miss: you cannot achieve anything until your mind is first trained to stand steady, focused, and resilient. This is where it all begins. Before we talk about goals, before we talk about resilience, before we talk about success, we must talk about the foundation. Because once the mind is strong, life follows. And once you build that inner fortress, nothing, absolutely nothing, can take it away from you. Backhand index pointing right, that's part 1, about 1,000 words, rewritten in story style with Napoleon Hill's influence. Part 2, Resilience. The art of rising again. A young man once tried to train as a blacksmith. On his first day, the hammer felt heavy in his hands. The iron sparks burned his skin. By the end of the week, his arms ached so badly that he could barely lift the hammer. "Maybe I am not cut out for this," he muttered, ready to quit. His master, an old blacksmith with hands like iron, overheard him. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and said, "Listen carefully. The strongest steel is not the one that avoids the fire. It is the one that survives it again and again. Each time it is heated and struck, it grows tougher, not weaker." The boy stayed. He was burned, bruised, and tired many times. But with each trial, his arms grew steadier, his hammer strikes sharper. One day, he realized he no longer feared the fire. He welcomed it. That is resilience. What resilience really means: resilience is the art of getting back up, no matter how many times life pushes you down. Think of a ball. Drop it on the ground, and what does it do? It bounces back. That's the simple picture of resilience. Or think of a tree in the middle of a cold winter. Its branches may be bare, its leaves stripped away, and snow may weigh it down. From the outside, it looks lifeless. But when spring returns, that same tree blossoms again. Why? Because its roots held strong through the winter. In the same way, your resilience, your unseen strength, will carry you through the winters of life until your spring comes. Failure is not the end. Most people think failure means the end. They fall once and decide, "This is it. I'm finished." But resilient people see failure differently. They treat failure like a teacher, not a tombstone. Instead of saying, "It's over," they ask, "What can I learn from this?" Thomas Edison, the man who gave us the electric light, is one of the greatest examples. History tells us he failed thousands of times while trying to create a working light bulb. When reporters asked how it felt to fail so much, Edison calmly said, "I didn't fail. I discovered thousands of ways that did not work." That is resilience. He didn't see failure as defeat. He saw it as information. And that mindset gave the world light. The warrior spirit. Picture a warrior on the battlefield. Arrows fly, swords clash, and in the chaos he is struck down. He bleeds. He feels pain. For a moment he wants to stay down. But resilience whispers, "Rise." So, he pushes himself up, steadies his sword, and keeps fighting. Life is the same. You will get knocked down. You will feel fear, discouragement, even heartbreak. Resilience does not mean you never feel pain. It means you never let pain keep you down. Building your resilience. So, how do you build resilience? 1. Expect the falls. Stop believing life should always be smooth. Storms are part of the journey. When you expect challenges, you are not surprised when they arrive, you are prepared. Point 2. Hold on to purpose. A clear why gives you the strength to endure any how. A mother working 3 jobs for her children will rise after every fall because she knows why she fights. When you anchor yourself to purpose, resilience grows. Point 3. Take small steps forward. On some days you cannot run. On others you cannot even walk quickly. But if you can take one small step, you are still moving. Progress, however small, is still progress. Point 4. Practice rising. Each time you get up after failure, you train your mind. Just like lifting weights strengthens your body, choosing to rise strengthens your spirit. The growth hidden in struggle. Resilience is like a muscle. It gets stronger the more you use it. Every setback you overcome adds weight to your character. Every disappointment you face with courage adds steel to your spirit. Over time, challenges that once broke you no longer shake you. Look back on your life for a moment. Think of the hardships you once thought you could never survive. But here you are, still standing. That's proof that resilience already lives in you. The fact that you are still moving, still breathing, still fighting, means you have bounced back before. And you can do it again. The truth of strength, true strength is not in never falling. True strength is in always rising. The ball does not stop bouncing because it touched the ground. The tree does not stop growing because winter stripped it bare. The warrior is not defeated because he was wounded, and you will not be defeated simply because life pushed you down. The secret to a strong life is resilience, the choice to rise, again and again, no matter what. Closing thought. Napoleon Hill often reminded us, every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Resilience is what allows you to plant that seed, water it with effort, and watch it grow into wisdom, courage, and strength. So remember this truth: life will knock you down. But if your mind is strong, you will rise again, like the ball that bounces back, like the tree that blooms after winter, like the warrior who never leaves the fight. Resilience is not just a trait. It is a decision. And once you decide to keep rising, nothing in this world can hold you down. Backhand index pointing right. That's part 2, Resilience. 1,000 words, in a Napoleon Hill inspired story style, simple and engaging for American readers. Do you want me to continue with part 3, Self-belief, the core of confidence? Next. Part 3, the hidden power that builds greatness. Hook. There was once a young man who dreamed of becoming a great builder. Not of houses or bridges, but of his own life. He wanted wealth, respect, freedom, and power. Yet, like many, he often waited for the perfect feeling to take action. If he felt motivated, he worked hard. If he felt lazy, he did nothing. His life moved in circles, like a wagon stuck in mud. One day, he met an old mentor, a man who had built his fortune from nothing. The mentor asked him, "Do you want to know the secret that separates the weak from the strong, the poor from the rich, the dreamer from the achiever?" The young man leaned in, expecting some clever trick. The mentor said one word: discipline. Discipline, the foundation stone. The mentor explained, "Motivation is like the wind, it comes and goes. But discipline is like the stone, it stays. Discipline is the daily choice to do what must be done, even when you don't feel like doing it." He told the story of a farmer. Every morning before the sun rose, the farmer walked into the fields. Rain or shine, hot or cold, tired or strong, he planted seeds, pulled weeds, and cared for the land. At first, the ground looked the same. But as the weeks turned into months, the farmer's steady work brought a strong harvest. His neighbors, who waited for the right feeling to work, often went hungry. The lesson was clear: discipline creates results when feelings fail. The young man asked, "But isn't discipline painful?" The mentor smiled. "The pain of discipline is light compared to the heavy burden of regret. Each small act of discipline is a brick. Over time, those bricks build a fortress of strength around your mind. With discipline, you become unstoppable." Passion, the fire that fuels the journey. The mentor leaned closer. "But discipline alone is not enough. A man can work hard yet feel empty if there is no fire inside. That fire is passion." He told of a craftsman who carved wood. To others, it seemed tiring and dull. But the craftsman loved the process. He shaped, polished, and carved with joy. What looked like work to others felt like play to him. Passion is not always found, it is built. At first, it may be a spark of interest. But as you give time, effort, and love, it grows into a steady flame. The mentor warned. Passion without discipline is like fire without control. It burns but achieves little. And discipline without passion is like a machine without fuel. It moves, but without joy. Together, passion and discipline create greatness. The young man thought of his own dreams. He realized he had sparks of passion, but he never gave them steady fuel. He would start projects with excitement, but quit when the fire faded. The mentor's words struck deep. Feed your passion every day with effort. Protect it from doubt and fear. And let it spread, because passion is contagious. A passionate teacher awakens students. A passionate leader inspires nations. Learning and adaptability, the secret of growth. The mentor then picked up a glass of water and poured it on the ground. "Tell me, What happens to this water when it meets a rock? The young man said. It flows around it. Exactly, the mentor said. That is adaptability. Life will place rocks in your path. If you are rigid, you will break. But if you are flexible, you will flow around the obstacle and continue forward. He explained how great leaders and inventors succeeded not because they never failed, but because they kept learning and adapting. Thomas Edison tested thousands of materials before finding the right filament for the light bulb. Each failure was not the end but a lesson. A wise man, the mentor said, asks not, why me, but what is this trying to teach me? The young man asked. But what if change scares me? The mentor laughed gently. Change is life. Seasons change, people change, fortunes change. The question is not whether change will come, but whether you will use it. A sailor cannot control the wind, but he can adjust his sails. So must you. He added, be curious. Be humble. Do not cling to old habits that no longer serve you. Adapt, and you will not just survive, you will thrive. Positive mindset, the lens of strength. Finally, the mentor spoke of the mind. Two men may face the same storm. One says, this storm will destroy me. The other says, this storm will pass, and the rain will feed my fields. The difference is not in the storm, it is in the mind. He told of a builder whose house was destroyed by a flood. Many would have given up, but the builder said, I will rebuild, and this time stronger. His loss became his opportunity. The mentor continued, a positive mind is not blind to problems. It sees them clearly but chooses hope over despair, solutions over complaints. Gratitude is the fuel of positivity. When you count your blessings, you see that you already have seeds of strength for tomorrow. The young man nodded slowly. He had often wasted energy on things he could not control, tying his happiness to outcomes beyond his reach. The mentor's words cut like a blade. Strong minds focus on what they can control and release what they cannot. That is peace. That is power. The young man's awakening. The lesson was clear. To build a strong life, the young man would need discipline to stay steady, passion to stay alive, adaptability to stay moving, and a positive mindset to stay strong. The mentor looked him in the eyes and said, greatness is not built in a day. It is built in daily choices. The mountain is not formed overnight, and neither is the man who climbs it. But if you commit to discipline, protect your passion, learn from every step, and see the world through a positive lens, there will be no limit to how high you can rise. The young man left with a new fire inside. He finally understood that success was not luck, not chance, not comfort. It was the result of mastering himself. Part 4. The Courage to Keep Going. Hook. On a cold evening in Chicago, a small crowd gathered to hear a struggling young speaker. His shoes were worn, his coat was thin, and his pockets nearly empty. Many in the crowd doubted he had anything important to say. But when he spoke, his voice carried a fire that shook their hearts. He said, you may see me poor today, but I will not remain this way. I will rise, and nothing will stop me. That man was a future leader of industry. What separated him from the thousands of others who lived and died in poverty? Not luck. Not money. It was his courage, persistence, faith, and vision. These 4 qualities turn ordinary men and women into giants. Without them, discipline and passion fade. With them, even the weakest beginnings can grow into mighty achievements. Courage, the first step into the unknown, the mentor told the young man. Every great journey begins with courage. Most people never take the first step because they wait for fear to disappear. But fear never leaves on its own. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is action in spite of fear. He shared the story of a miner who once dug for gold in Colorado. After months of effort, the man grew discouraged. The ground seemed empty. He sold his tools for a few dollars and walked away. The new owner, however, called in an engineer. Just 3 feet from where the miner had stopped, there lay one of the richest gold veins ever discovered. Fear and doubt robbed that miner of fortune, the mentor said. Courage would have carried him just a little further. Remember this, the treasure is often closest when fear whispers the loudest. The young man felt his heart stir. He had quit many times in the past whenever fear or difficulty appeared. Perhaps, he thought, his gold had always been just 3 feet away. Persistence, the power to refuse defeat. The mentor continued. But courage alone is not enough. You must also have persistence. Courage begins the journey, persistence finishes it. He told of a poor boy who dreamed of becoming a lawyer. The boy worked in the day and studied by candlelight at night. Many laughed at him. Some told him to give up. But he persisted. He read law books until his eyes ached. He practiced speaking until his voice grew strong. Years later, that boy became Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States. Persistence is the will to keep moving when the road grows steep. It is the refusal to accept defeat. Most men are defeated not by their enemies, but by their own surrender. The mentor's voice grew firm. Success often comes to the one who simply refuses to stop. One more step, one more try, one more day, that is persistence. And it makes all the difference. Faith, the invisible bridge, the young man asked. But how can I keep going when I cannot see the end? The mentor answered. That is where faith comes in. Faith is the invisible bridge between where you stand and where you dream to be. Without it, you hesitate. With it, you move forward boldly. He spoke of inventors who dared to believe in flying machines when the world mocked them. The Wright brothers had no riches, no powerful connections, but they had faith in their idea. And because they believed, they acted. Their faith gave birth to the airplane. Faith is not blind wishing. It is a deep conviction that your efforts will bear fruit. It is the belief that unseen forces, call it God, destiny, or the power of the mind, are working with you when you act with purpose. The mentor leaned close. Guard your faith as you would guard treasure. Doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will. Speak faith, think faith, and act in faith. The world will move aside for the man who knows where he is going. Vision, the picture of the future. Finally, the mentor spoke of vision. A man without vision is like a sailor without a compass. He may row with strength, but he will drift aimlessly. Vision gives direction to your courage, persistence, and faith. He told the story of a young woman who worked in a textile mill. Day after day, she sat at her machine, breathing dust, earning pennies. Yet in her mind, she held a vision of a better life. She studied at night, saved her coins, and invested in herself. Years later, she owned the very mill where she once labored. What gave her strength? The mentor asked. It was her vision. She saw not only what was, but what could be. And that picture in her mind pulled her forward until it became real. Vision is the seed of all greatness. It is the mental blueprint of the future you want to create. When you hold it firmly, your mind begins to seek ways to make it true. The young man listened with burning eyes. But the mentor did not let him rest in comfort. He gave him a challenge. Tomorrow, you must stand in the marketplace and speak to strangers. Tell them your dream. Tell them you will rise and nothing will stop you. This will test your courage. When they laugh, persist. When they doubt, keep speaking with faith. And above all, paint your vision so clearly that they can see it too. The young man trembled. The thought of facing the crowd filled him with fear. But then he remembered the miner who stopped 3 feet from gold, the boy who became Lincoln, the brothers who believed in flight, and the woman who turned a vision into power. He knew this was his moment. The awakening. The next day, he stood before the crowd. His hands shook, but his voice rose. He told them of his dream to build a new life, to grow in strength, and to lift others with him. Some mocked. Some walked away. But a few listened, and in their eyes he saw belief. It was not the crowd that mattered. It was the fact that he had faced his fear, persisted through doubt, spoken in faith, and shared his vision. That night, he walked to the mentor's house. His heart was still pounding, but for the first time in his life, he felt truly alive. The mentor smiled. Now you understand. Discipline and passion build your foundation. But courage, persistence, faith, and vision lift you to greatness. With these, no storm can stop you, no doubt can hold you, and no dream is too high. Lesson of Part 4. Courage starts the journey. Persistence finishes it. Faith carries you when you cannot see the way. Vision gives you the map to your destiny. Together, they form the wings that lift you above the ordinary and into greatness. Why heavy checkmark word count 1050 fits your 1000 target. Do you want me to keep Part 5 in the same rhythm, story-driven, Napoleon Hill style, or do you want me to start blending in real American success stories, like Ford, Carnegie, Edison, to make it even more authentic? Part 5. The Power of Decision, Imagination, and Action. Hook. In 1903, two brothers stood on the sand dunes of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Their machine looked strange, wooden wings tied with wires, a small motor buzzing like an insect. Many laughed at them. Some called them fools chasing the wind. But when Orville Wright lifted off the ground for 12 seconds, the world changed forever. What gave the Wright brothers this power? It was not wealth, for they were poor. It was not formal education, for they had little. Their greatness came from clear decisions, bold imagination, supportive alliances, and relentless action. These four principles can lift any man or woman from ordinary to extraordinary. Decision, the point where dreams become real. The mentor said to the young man, "Your life is built not by chance, but by decisions. Weak minds drift, waiting for fate. Strong minds decide, and destiny follows their command." He told the story of Henry Ford. In his early years, Ford dreamed of creating a motorcar for the common man. His friends laughed. Investors doubted him. Even his first attempts failed. But Ford had made a decision. He would build it no matter what. That decision guided his every move. When obstacles appeared, he did not ask, "Should I continue?" He had already decided. His only question was, "How will I continue?" Indecision, the mentor warned, is the thief of opportunity. Most people fail not because they lack talent, but because they never decide with finality. Once you decide, the universe seems to open doors where before there were only walls. The young man realized how often he had drifted, waiting for certainty. But certainty never comes before decision, it comes after. The mastermind alliance, power and unity. The mentor then asked, "Do you believe you can succeed alone?" The young man nodded. But the mentor shook his head. No one climbs the mountain of success by themselves. Every great leader had allies, trusted minds working together toward a common purpose. That is the power of the mastermind. He spoke of Andrew Carnegie, the great steel magnate. Carnegie admitted he personally knew little about steel. His genius was in gathering men of knowledge, uniting them under one vision, and drawing from their collective intelligence. One mind is limited, the mentor said. But when two or more minds unite in harmony, a third, invisible mind is created, a mastermind. It generates ideas, energy, and solutions no single person could produce alone. The young man thought of his own life. He had often tried to fight every battle alone. But maybe, he realized, strength comes not only from independence, but from wise cooperation. Imagination, the workshop of the mind. The mentor led the young man into his study. On the desk were sketches, maps, and plans. "This," he said, "is the true workshop of creation, not these papers, but the imagination that produced them." He told of Thomas Edison, who failed more than 10,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Edison once said, "I never failed. I only discovered 10,000 ways that would not work." But behind each trial was imagination, the vision of a glowing lamp lighting the darkness. Imagination, the mentor said, is the bridge between dreams and reality. Everything man has ever built, cities, machines, even nations, was first a picture in someone's mind. If you can see it in your imagination and act with faith, you can bring it into the world. The young man felt a spark. His mind had always been filled with doubts and worries. But now he began to ask, what if I used my imagination to picture success instead of failure? What if I dared to see the life I want, not just the life I fear? Action, the golden key. Finally, the mentor's voice grew firm. But remember this, imagination without action is only a dream. Decision without action is only a wish. The world does not reward ideas, it rewards ideas acted upon. He told the story of a salesman who longed to start his own business. The man read books, made plans, and dreamed endlessly. But he never took the first step. His dream remained in notebooks while others, less talented but more daring, built fortunes. You must act, the mentor said. Bold action separates thinkers from doers. It is better to act and stumble than to sit still and rot. Fortune comes to the man who dares to begin. The young man thought of his own wasted years, of plans never attempted, of ideas left to gather dust. He felt both shame and hope. For though the past was gone, today was still in his hands. The young man's experiment. The mentor gave him a task. Decide on one goal. Use your imagination to see it clearly. Then find one ally to support you. And before the sun sets, take one action toward it. Do not wait for tomorrow. Begin today. The young man chose his goal, to build a small shop where he could sell his craft. In his imagination, he saw shelves filled with goods, customers walking in, and the sound of his own laughter filling the room. He then sought a friend who shared his dream. Together, they discussed ideas, giving each other courage and clarity. And before nightfall, the young man rented a small corner stall in the marketplace. His shop was not grand, but it was real. For the first time, he had moved beyond wishing into doing. The awakening of power that evening, he returned to the mentor. His voice shook with excitement. I have begun! The mentor smiled. Do you see now? Decision gave you strength. The mastermind gave you support. Imagination gave you vision. And action gave you reality. This is the formula of achievement. Repeat it, and no dream will remain impossible. The young man nodded. In his heart, he knew he had discovered the secret to turning thought into power. Lesson of Part 5. Greatness belongs to those who decide firmly, who unite with others in harmony, who dare to imagine boldly, and who act without hesitation. Decision gives direction. The mastermind multiplies strength. Imagination paints the vision. Action makes it real. Together, they form the unbeatable engine of success. White heavy check mark word count, 1030 words. Would you like me to carry Part 6 as the grand conclusion, where all principles come together in one final story, showing the young man's full transformation into success? Part 6. The Final Secret of Success. Hook. It was a quiet evening. The young man stood at the edge of a hill, looking down at the little town where he once wandered aimlessly. The same streets that had once felt heavy with doubt now glowed with possibility. His shop was small but thriving. He was no longer the man of yesterday. His mentor joined him. You have climbed far, he said. But there is still one truth to learn, the final secret that ties all others together. The journey reviewed. The mentor reminded him of the steps he had taken. Desire gave him the spark. Faith gave him strength to believe. Courage made him step forward despite fear. Persistence kept him moving when obstacles appeared. Vision let him see a future worth fighting for. Decision fixed his path. The Mastermind Alliance gave him allies. Imagination helped him create new ways. Action turned dreams into reality. The young man listened, his heart swelling with gratitude. But he leaned closer and asked, What is the final secret, Master? The one that binds all of these? The final secret. The power of growth and service. The mentor's eyes softened. The final secret, he said, is that success is not only about what you gain, but what you give. True success is measured not in gold, but in the lives you touch, the people you lift, and the legacy you leave behind. He told the story of Napoleon Hill himself, who spent decades studying the most powerful men of his time, Carnegie, Ford, Edison, Rockefeller. Hill discovered that while wealth and power came to them, their greatest satisfaction was not in money, but in contribution. Andrew Carnegie built libraries. Henry Ford gave the common man freedom of movement. Edison brought light to the world. Their riches mattered less than the service they rendered. Growth, the mentor explained, means you never stop learning, never stop improving, never stop giving. Success that ends with you dies with you. Success that serves others lives forever. The young man felt a deep silence within. He had been seeking success for himself, but now he saw a higher purpose. The young man's transformation. In the months that followed, the young man expanded his little shop. He trained apprentices, giving them skills to rise. He offered fair prices so the poor could afford his goods. He treated each customer with respect, as if they were a king. Soon, people began to speak of him, not just as a merchant, but as a man of trust, a leader, a giver. His influence spread beyond coins and trade. He had become a man of character. One evening, he said to the mentor, I thought success was about having more. Now I see it is about becoming more, and helping others to become more as well. The mentor smiled. Now you understand. Wealth, power, happiness, these are only shadows. The real treasure is the growth of your soul and the service you give to mankind. The mentor's last words before departing, the mentor gave his final message. Remember, success is not a destination but a journey. Each day you must renew your desire, Strengthen your faith, act with courage, persist with determination, imagine boldly, decide firmly, unite with others, and above all, serve. This is the philosophy of achievement. Follow it, and you will never live in vain. The young man bowed in gratitude. When he looked up, he felt as though the whole world was his mentor now, guiding him, testing him, rewarding him. The legacy years later, the young man, now a man of wisdom, told his story to others. Young dreamers came to him, asking for the secret of success. He shared the lessons, passing on the philosophy that had lifted him. His words lived on, not in dusty books alone, but in the hearts of men and women who dared to believe, to decide, to act, to serve. And so his legacy continued, just as his mentor's legacy lived within him. The final challenge. So, dear reader, you have walked the same journey with the young man. You have seen how desire becomes faith, how courage fuels persistence, how vision creates decision, how imagination brings action, and how service crowns it all. Now the choice is yours. Will you drift as the masses do, waiting for chance? Or will you rise, decide, and act? Will you hoard success for yourself, or will you grow and serve, leaving behind a legacy greater than wealth? The principles are here. The stories have been told. The power rests in your hands. Glowing Star call to action. Glowing Star, if this journey inspired you, then do not keep it to yourself. Backhand index pointing right. Subscribe so you never miss the wisdom that can change your life. Backhand index pointing right. Share this story with friends who are chasing their dreams. Backhand index pointing right. Comment below with your own goals, your own journey, and the lessons you've learned. Your voice matters. Your story can inspire someone else, just as Napoleon Hill's philosophy has inspired millions. Success begins with the decision. Decide now. Act now. Grow, serve, and leave your mark.